recent talks about the EV, especially for two-wheelers and four-wheelers, where everybody is being bullish about the latest EV development and purchasing the EV for their own use. I consider it to be my duty that with whatever little knowledge I have, to let you know that you're actually saving the money or not. Or if you're an environmental lover, so are you really doing something good to the environment by purchasing an EV? Firstly, we will try to understand about the saving of the environment by way of carbon emission that you would be doing if you buy a two-wheeler or a four-wheeler. When we talk about an EV, the very first thing that comes into our mind is that an electric vehicle is eco-friendly, it creates less pollution, it keeps the environment greener and safer, and most importantly, it is cost-effective. But what if I told you that the EV destroys the environment first and then over a period of time it can actually start saving it? Confusing, isn't it? So to understand this concept, let's have a look at the blog which is written by Zex Hofstadter, who is a climate scientist and a director at Breakthrough Institute, which is an environmental research think tank. In his article, he has quoted that producing a 75 kilowatt per hour battery for a Tesla Model 3, considered on the larger end of the batteries for electric vehicles, would result in the emission of 4,500 kilograms of CO2 if it was made at Tesla's battery factory in Nevada. That's the emission equivalent to driving a gas-powered sedan for 1.4 years at a yearly average distance of 12,000 miles. Further, he says, if the battery were made in Asia, manufacturing it would produce 7,500 kg of carbon dioxide, or the equivalent of driving a gasoline-powered sedan for 2.4 years. Hofstadter said the larger emission amount in Asia can be attributed to its higher carbon electricity mix. The continent relies more on coal for energy production, while Tesla's Nevada factory uses some solar energy.
दोस्तों, जब भी आप इलेक्ट्रॉनिक प्रोजेक्ट बनाते हैं या कोई इलेक्ट्रॉनिक कंपोनेंट बनाते हैं, उसका जो मेन पार्ट रहता है वो है पीसीबी. पीसीबी डिजाइन करते समय आपको बहुत प्रिसाइसली डिजाइन करना पड़ता है. तो वर्ल्ड का सबसे बेस्ट जो सॉफ्टवेयर यूज आता है पीसीबी डिजाइन के लिए वो है अल्टम डिजाइनर. इसके बाद आप काफी अच्छे से पीसीबी डिजाइन कर सकते हैं और काफी यूजर फ्रेंडली है. और इसमें पिछले 35 सालों में इनोवेशन और डेवलपमेंट के बाद आज सिस्टम वर्ल्ड का सबसे ज्यादा यूज करने वाला पीसीबी डिजाइनिंग सिस्टम बन चुका है. इसमें आप पीसीबी डिजाइन छोटे से के छोटे डिटेलिंग में कर सकते हो. अगर आप इंटरेस्टेड है पीसीबी डिजाइनिंग में तो यहाँ पे आपको फ्री ट्रायल का मैं लिंक डिस्क्रिप्शन में दे दूंगा, डू चेक करें.
Now when we talk about the battery, most of the import of the battery happens from Asia, that is China, Korea, Japan, and they are largely dependent on electricity generated from coal. India is also dependent on coal for generating electricity. So we need to understand that we are burning a lot of fuel and a lot of carbon is generated even to produce electricity. We all think that if we use electric vehicle, it is saving the environment. But this is a very strong misconception that we have. Electricity is responsible for the destruction of the environment. With this, I would like to tell you that those who are environment lovers should not remain under the impression that buying an EV, they are saving the environment. This could be done only if you are a heavy user of your vehicle. Now let's understand, when do we actually start saving the environment? When we talk about riding the bike for 30,000 kilometers, that means that you're riding the vehicle for 28 kilometers every day, 10,000 kilometers in a year, and at the same time you're discounting your holidays, trips and the non-use days. Then you will be riding the vehicle 10,000 kilometers in a year, and then you would have ridden the vehicle 30,000 kilometers in 3 years. So practically, for the first 3 years, you're not saving the environment, as the emission which has been produced while producing the battery is just covered when you ride the vehicle for 30,000 kilometers. Only after the third year, if your vehicle or the battery lasts more than 3 years or 50,000 kilometers, then you can say that you feel or you have been saving the environment. Now let's talk about the money you are trying to save when you purchase an EV. Most of the branded EVs are sold mostly at 1 to 1.5 lakhs. So let's say if you're spending 2.5 rupees on a kilometer on a petrol bike, then for 30,000 kilometers, you're saving 75,000 rupees. So unless you ride 50,000 kilometers, you're not recovering the cost of the vehicle, which means even if you ride the bike 28 kilometers per day on average, then also it would take a minimum 5 years to recover your money, which means it is not so lucrative when you look at it from a cost saving point of view. Also, another thing that we are all aware of is that EV do not have any reselling value and most of them are useless after 3 years. When we talk about the batteries, most manufacturers give a warranty of 30,000 kilometers. Very few give more than that. Still, there are some savings, but for that savings, what you are compromising is the question that comes in. You're compromising going on long rides, if you're going out of cities for the weekends, and if you're planning to go on a holiday. These things are not possible on an EV. You will need a petrol vehicle for that. Second thing which you're compromising is the flexibility. That you can go anytime, anywhere, to any distance, which at present is not possible in an EV. Because at present, we do not have many charging stations or battery swapping stations available. And especially, it's problematic in those vehicles that have fixed batteries. You need to have charging stations for that. And those charging stations are very limited. So the purpose of my video is to make you educated, to make you aware about the fact that if your use is less, technically you do not save anything. The environment, the society, your future, you're not ever doing any good for your own pocket because you do save some money. But in return, you're compromising on the flexibility, the quality and the peace of mind. The range anxiety is known to everyone. My point is, EV is largely beneficial for commercially oriented vehicles like tourist cabs, taxis or delivery vehicles. Also, now that people have been talking about airplanes running on battery, that is also going to make a huge difference because they are going to be useful for them, providing them with long range. Now there are two types of batteries, which are primary batteries and secondary batteries. Primary batteries are the batteries that cannot be recharged. It can be used once to its complete power and capacity and discarded when the power is consumed. On the other hand, secondary batteries are rechargeable batteries. So as a general rule, secondary batteries can be reused again and again. Some of the types of secondary batteries are lead acid, nickel and lithium batteries. Let us understand the cost difference between the two. Secondary cells are not like the cells of the remote control or anything else. You must understand that the cells that you have been buying in your life so far are disposable cells. They can cost you rupees 10, 20 or 50. But secondary batteries are very expensive. They can cost you around 20k to lakhs of rupees and that is not a small amount. These batteries need different kinds of care because they are rechargeable batteries. The more you can recharge them, the more benefit you'll get out of it. What is a lithium battery? A lithium battery is a type of rechargeable battery and it is used in many products. There are various types of lithium batteries which are NMC, LFP, LTO, LMO, LCA. Out of all these, only lithium titanate, which is LTO, is the chemistry that is worth mentioning here because that is the safest battery made so far and that has the highest number of cycles. But the problem with this type of battery is that it is very low with density. That per kg or space required is much more than any other types of batteries and the weight is also much more. Plus it is at least 10 times more expensive than any other battery. That is why many manufacturers just overlook this type of battery because it is not commercially viable. Now we will be discussing about mostly used batteries, which is NMC, nickel manganese cobalt oxide and lithium batteries. These are typically lithium ion batteries. Let us understand the characteristics and differentiate them on the basis of the same. The cost of the battery depends on its performance, safety and demand for the same. NMC and LFP as far as the cost is concerned are similar. LFP mainly is manufactured in China only. There are a lot of big companies who are making very good high quality LFP cells, so both of them are good and they have certain advantages and disadvantages. Now we will talk about energy density. Energy density is just like the water in the bottle. If it is 1 liter bottle, then you can have 1 liter of water. If you have 2 liter bottle, then you can have 2 liter of water. So this is called energy density. It is basically how much energy is stored in a cell. The unit of it is watt-hour per kg. As we told you earlier that the energy density is more in NMC compared to LFP. And as far as NMC are concerned, compared to LFP, their size is 16% less. Same is for the weight as well. If LFP weighs 1 kg, then NMC will weigh 600 grams or somewhere around that. This is just a gross comparison just to give you an idea. If you want to fit a larger battery in a vehicle which is space constrained, then NMC is the only choice. But if you don't have any space constraint, then LFP can be the choice of the battery. The only disadvantage in LFP battery is that it takes more space and it is heavier in weight. As far as the weight is concerned, if the battery is portable and if you can carry the battery, it doesn't matter whether the battery is 5 kg or 10 kg. Space, yes, is the concern of the manufacturer because they are already short of space to provide you bigger range and bigger size of the battery. Some of the manufacturers, they know they cannot give you long range if they don't use LFP. Even Tesla has started using LFP batteries for the requirement of range, safety and lifespan of the batteries. The safety is the most important characteristic and it can be determined by the thermal stability of the material used in the batteries and the ability to sustain high temperatures. Temperature has a huge impact on batteries. NMC is basically more recommended for cold climate countries like US, Europe, Australia, New Zealand, China. So even if the battery gets hot, it very rarely goes into thermal rundown, especially if the battery is made properly and there is a cooling system. The risk in LFP to go into thermal rundown is much less than NMC. In a country like India, during summer, when the temperature is already 45 degrees centigrade and if you're running your vehicle at the speed of 60, 70 or 80 kilometers, having a load, the current requirement is so high that your battery keeps on getting hot and they may go into thermal rundown. That is one of the reasons why you see a lot of blast happening in India. It's mainly due to thermal rundown because the manufacturer doesn't have a cooling system inside the battery. Such incidences are very rare in case of LFP because they can tolerate more temperature and they don't blast or catch fire. Also, NMC can catch fire, it can blast, and once it's blast or catches the fire, the whole scooter goes into flames while LFP goes into fumes, so it doesn't harm the scooter or the person or to the surrounding. That is why LFP batteries are safe. You can remove the battery from the vehicle when it goes into thermal rundown and put it aside so that the battery goes completely into fumes. So once the battery has gone into thermal rundown, you will not be able to use the battery in any of the battery, be it LFP or NMC. But in NMC, you can't do anything about it. If you see that it is happening, you have to run away, go far as possible so that your vehicle will go into flames and get completely destroyed. Other than this, one of the most important characteristics is the lifespan of the battery. Factors such as depth of discharge, balancing and temperature determines the lifespan of the battery. Normally, good quality cells such as Panasonic NMC cells have a cycles of 800. That is what Panasonic claims. While in LFP, most manufacturers claim a minimum 1500 to 3000 cycles. Also, that means when you buy an LFP battery, the life cycle is also more. So the biggest advantage of LFP battery is that you have double the life cycle compared to NMC and it is safer. Talking about specific power. Specific power is the loading capability. Like how fast a battery can discharge, how much current it can give you. Because some tools require a lot of power instantly, just like a drill or heavy power tools. In a car, it does not matter because LFP and NMC are equally good. It's not just one cell which is used. It is a series of cells, 100 cell, 1000 cell or probably even 10,000 cells are used so that together they can emit a lot of power. So as far as power is concerned, I think LFP and NMC both are equally good. The last one is the performance of the battery. How well a battery can perform in different temperatures helps analyzing the performance of the type of the battery. Both NMC and LFP are equally good performers.